want to thank you for coming and being our audience for Girl Talk. Today we have our beautiful Petra Cleary. She's going to be our guest speaker today. And Petra is a wonderful international makeup artist, and she has taught in over 16 countries. So we're really privileged to have you here today, Petra. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming out and giving us your educated background on makeup and on skincare. So let's do this.
Thanks for having me, Shar, and thanks, Lisa, for hosting in this incredible space. It is so beautiful. And ladies, thanks for spending some time with us for some girl talk. I'm really excited about this topic of taking a holistic approach to healthy skin because it's never too early to start taking care of your skin. It is our pride and joy, and we wear it day in and day out. So before we get started, I'd love to hear from you as what is your biggest skin concern?
The wrinkles and sagging of my skin.
Okay, so bit of anti-aging concerns for you.
I get mild acne with looking hair around my cheek every now and then.
Okay, so a little bit of breakout.
Yeah.
I think I have similar issues, just like the cheekbone having like breakouts, and then it with my skin tone, like it will create like a little scar, and then it's like discolored, and so you have to wait like I say like a couple months for it to kind of lighten up. So I'd like to try to eliminate those.
Okay.
For me, it's under eyes, dark circles.
Acne.
Okay, acne. What about you, Shar?
Mine is a little bit of, my skin gets really oily, and other than that, it's okay. But I do get oil and shine.
Okay. And Lisa?
I would just say the occasional breakout, and I want to keep it moisturized as much as possible.
Awesome. And mine is every single one that you guys have mentioned. And so we're going to learn a bit about just really getting down to like the root of where all of our skin concerns come from, right? And with everything with our body, it's an inside job. It really is an inside job. And so whether it is too much oil because maybe we're not hydrated enough, and so our skin has to compensate for that with oil production because we're not drinking enough of the right things, especially water, or even sometimes just having herbal teas, electrolytes. It could be we're starting to see more signs of anti-aging, not just because of oxidative stress, but because of real life stress, which also has an impact on our skin. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, is taking a holistic approach. And holistic just really means, in layman's term, really like just from all angles. So treating the whole the whole person, looking at, I always tell people I'm a holistic entrepreneur. So it's not just about the business, it's not just about my appearance as an entrepreneur, it's also about my sanity, right? It's about my happiness. And so being a business owner, sometimes you exchange some of that to grow your business. But I always look at myself as a holistic entrepreneur, like all of Petra. So when we look at our skin with a holistic approach, we're looking at all of our body, our mind, our body, and the skin. A lot of time we think skincare is grab something in a jar and slap it on. And if I find the right thing in a jar, or if I do it consistently, then that's it. And we've all had the skincare roller coaster, right? Where it's like, yes, something's working. And yes, I found something. But it doesn't stop my concern from happening, right? It doesn't stop the dark circles. It doesn't stop the breakouts. It doesn't stop the discoloration from your breakouts, right? Or the imperfections. So what our skin is just really one of those magical mirrors like Snow White, how that mirror could talk back. Our skin talks back to us. Our skin says, Imani, there's too much stress or there's too much something. Our skin says, Lilabeth, you're not protecting me enough from environmental factors, especially out here in the West Coast, the ozone, right? So our skin is telling us with what it shows us. A lot of times we're not hearing. And it's easier to do topical than it is to say, Let me take breaths. Let me do something that's going to help me de-stress. Let me eat foods that help my body to deal with stress, such as probiotics. So simply taking in probiotics daily to have that great microbiome, to have that peace. Right? So if you think of our gut, there's like an all-out turf war that happens, right? You have viruses, pathogens, bad bacteria. And so the good bacteria are like the marshals that come in and create balance and create peace. And when we can do that in our gut, then things like, okay, I am eating right, I am drinking enough water, then our bodies can maximize that. So we know like, okay, I gotta eat more fruits and vegetables for my skin to look great. But guess what? If there's a war going on in our gut, those supplies don't get to the right place. And so something as simple as probiotics, prebiotics, digestive enzymes changes from the core. And that's why it's called our core. Right? The core is the center of everything, the core of the earth, the eye, right? This is the eye of our storm. And the more we can do to fortify that, the more we can do to support it and protect it, the better we'll see our skin, right? What the mirror starts telling us will be something different. My skin lets me know when it's happy. And then my skin lets me know when it's over me. Okay, and so we have to start listening, and I've learned to listen to my body, and it's actually been a joke since Shar came and picked me up from the airport, because the key word is hydration. If there was a little bubble over Petra's head, it would be hydration, and not just drinking my water, but hydration for my skin, even topically, because being on the West Coast always dehydrates me. Always, no matter what. And I've learned that over the years. So again, with that in mind and holistic, like looking at what I'm eating. Okay, so yes, I want Roscoe's chicken and waffles. And yes, I did get it. I am not going to deprive myself from that. But then the rest of my time, I also need to be more cognizant of what I'm eating versus how I normally eat in Miami. I kind of have to kick that game up. Otherwise, in a week from now, my skin is going to tell me everything that I did wrong on my trip to the West Coast.
Wow.
Right? So it tells us, but are we listening? So that holistic approach, again, is the body. So what are you fueling your skin with from the inside? And we said probiotics is one. Another one that creates hydration, and really just that flow, not just getting the hydration in, but allowing the body to use its waterway system for elimination, is green teas. Green tea is your friend. Herbal teas, so thyme, rosemary, they bring hydration to the body. Milk thistle, dandelion, they help to support the liver and kidneys to flush it all out, right? So a lot of times we have breakouts, we don't like what's happening, too much oil, right? Too much shine. We're like, okay, we'll cleanse it away. But when you think that, like, oh, let me make sure I cleanse my face twice a day, you also need to think, let me cleanse my body throughout the day. Let me make sure that those pumps and pipes are working, right? And it's just like our body's like any other machine. You can't expect it to just suddenly start operating well, right? It's just like when you want your car to have pickup, you can't expect a Ford Focus to suddenly have that pickup that you want, right? That 0 to 60 in 3 seconds just doesn't happen, right? And I'm a speed demon, and the one maintenance I really stayed on top of more than an oil change for my vehicle is a fuel injection flush. Because I drive like a NASCAR racer. My mom's like, gosh, you drive like a getaway driver, right? Because you can't expect that performance without that maintenance, without making sure those pumps and pipes are working. And it's the same for our incredible machine that's our body. So when we make sure those pumps and pipes are working at their capacity, we have to do something to help it to do that. We have to fortify it with that, right? If we want to see less stress in our face, whether it's in fine lines and wrinkles, or even dark circles, we also have to look at what is it that we're doing? What is causing it? And so even if something like dark circles are, sometimes it's hereditary. It happens in our family. Some things are oftentimes, when family related, it's the question of nature versus nurture, right? The same eating habits are passed down. The same work ethics and habits are passed down, right? Like that hustle and grind mindset, the same lack of sleep, right? The same, right? So sometimes when it's like, oh, everyone in my family has it. Well, everyone in my family also did the same thing. So, or everybody in my family, I learned how to deal with things and manage things in the same way. So that comes to the mind again. So how are we helping our skin to just look calm? Are we calm? I know I'm not. Okay? I know I'm not. And so what I do is I make sure that my sleep is totally on point. And my mind runs a mile a minute. So do I shut down and go to sleep right away? Nope. I'm like a 2-year-old. You start getting me ready for bed like an hour before, right? When people are like, oh my gosh, I don't get enough sleep. I'm like, well, what sleep aids do you use? And they automatically think I mean like a sleeping supplement. I'm like, no. Do you need a weighted duvet? Do you need a bolster under your knees? What is your sleep aid? And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, really? But if I asked your mother what was your sleep aid as a baby, you probably required a binky, a special blanket, or, a stuffed toy, or she had to lay you in a certain position. And so why, just because we're grown, we think we don't need a sleep aid? When as a baby, you didn't have a care in the world and you needed a sleep aid, right? So things like making sure that we get quality sleep. Again, using herbal teas to calm and soothe, using essential oils for relaxing the mind, calming the mind down, whether it's a blend. I love a blend called Harmony. It has saved so many people's lives. It's in my handbag right now because it does save lives. Break in case of emergency. Okay. Lavender is great, right? Lavender to sprinkle on our pillows, to put in an infuser, to put on an eye mask, because what happens is that those type of botanicals and herbs, they actually trigger receptors in our brain. And both of our brains, because there's one here and there's one here, right? Both of our brains can be rewired. They can be reprogrammed. And so when it's like, wow, I don't sleep a lot, or, I lay in the bed, but I'm not really sleeping, we can reprogram our body for that. And actually, speaking of that mind, it's going to go right back. And this is why we talk about a holistic approach. It's going to go right back to the first thing we talked about, is our gut. This is going to blow your mind. So I'm glad everyone is sitting down. Mm-hmm. Do you know that your gut has its own nervous system? Mm-hmm. So I heard this from a holistic doctor. I sat in on one of her talks. And our gut has its own nervous system and its own set of emotions, which is why when we're anxious, we get queasy, which is why when somebody keeps trying to talk to us, we're like, oh my God. Right? You feel it right here, which is why on roller coasters, we feel it, right? Mm-hmm. We feel it all in our gut, and we even call it a what? A gut feeling. Yes. Right? So there's a bunch of emotions that happen from our gut. But what blew me in her talk was that certain hormones are also produced here and not here. Okay? And when we're eating and causing trauma on a daily basis, the wiring system, the network, the 5G between the two brains, it's a bad signal. And so when you want to sleep and when you want to relax, your gut is like, okay, she needs some melatonin. But that communication never happens for this brain to say, release it. Right? And so we're like, oh, I need to take in more melatonin. And your gut's like, well, it's been sitting here, but so is that Roscoe's chicken and waffles. That's in the way, right? So is that stress that you're not managing that's allowing overproduction of cortisol, which tears away at the lining, which that is the network connection. And then we wonder why we can't get our skin to glow the way that we would like it, right? So topical, yes, that's great, but we also have to look at the other factors, the roots that cause these skin concerns and these skin issues. And one of the biggest one is the discoloration and the blemishes that we get, right? And it happens even more so in more pigmented skin. And that's because melanin, I like to describe melanin as that cousin that always wanted to fight your fights for you.
That makes sense.
Right? You kind of, as a kid, like, you'd be like, all right, I got it. And they're like, no, you don't. And you're like, calm down. Like, I've got it. Right? Melanin is that cousin that wants to fight your fight for you. It's super protective over you. Right? And so in more fair skin, like Lisa's skin, it works as more of an umbrella. And it's going to protect you from some oxidative stress and from UV rays. So it's more of just an umbrella, right? But in deeper pigmented skin, it works more like that cousin that wants to fight your fight. So yes, it protects you from the UV rays. It does protect you from the, things that cause early signs of aging. But sometimes it protects a little too well. And so it pools. And the reason why that cousin has to be so protective over you is because you're also more sensitive. All right? And so a lot of times women, African American women and women with more pigmented skin don't realize how sensitive our skin is. And so we get really aggressive with it, like, ooh, we break out, or ooh, this is happening, or ooh, I see some discoloration. And that cousin is like, no, you don't. Take that scrub away. No, you don't. That ingredient is too much. And so it ends up pooling to protect, and then it doesn't go away. What also happens, and we don't think about it, black doesn't crack, but it tarnishes and it gets a little discolored, right? It does tarnish, right? And so what happens, a big word that's being thrown around is that collagen, right? Collagen, 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 collagen. And for all of us, collagen production slows down as we get older, but that shows up differently depending on the makeup of our skin. And so in more fair skin, what we see are, the fine lines, the wrinkles, the signs of aging. In deeper pigmented skin, what that looks like is suddenly you have a birthmark that you weren't born with, right? Everybody's like, right? Grandmother's skin just as smooth as it wants to be, but she has natural contouring, doesn't she? Right? Because that's what happens with the decrease in collagen production. This is like my skincare bottle. But I love this book because it's about really a nutrition plan. It's about supplements to boost skin as well as the topical. There's a whole section on meal plans. There's a whole section on exercise, right? And so it's really that holistic approach to healthy skin. So the great news is that each and every one of us can have the skin that we want, and it's not too late. And it's not like, oh, I'm born with it. Yeah, we are, but we can also help to bring more balance, right? And so yes, our topical, and Shar and I always recommend our favorite line, a plant-forward, plant-based line that focuses on a holistic approach to healthy skin, which is Arbonne. But you can also do those things that we talked about, fortifying your gut, whether through supplements, whether through foods and cooking, taking better care of your emotional health and your mental health, and just how you handle stress. Which, to us, do you realize that we have not evolved to handle the chimes and beeps that take place every day from our devices? That keeps cortisol production going, right? That cortisol is only supposed to kick in when we have to run from a saber-toothed tiger or a Tyrannosaurus Rex, right? When we need to pick up our child and run out of a burning building, that's when it's supposed to kick in. So it kicks in and it turns off. It kicks in and it turns off. Sirens, horns, beeps, multitasking. That cortisol never kicks off. And so we're worn out. Our hormone production is not the same. Again, that connection is, so when you think of something that's supposed to turn off, we're burning it out, right? And it's not doing its job. And so that shows up on our skin. And so why does it show up on our skin? Well, it starts here. It starts as inflammation. Sometimes it shows up as breakouts. Sometimes it shows up as, dry patches that look like rashes. Sometimes it just shows up as, I'm tired, right? It shows up on our skin. And then what do we do to take care of it? So let's look at some ways that we can really take care of it, because the bottom line is wherever there's a deficit in our triad, something else is going to have to compensate for it. So you could beauty regimen, self-care all you want topically until you start taking care of the other two. So here's the solution. So we want to have, of course, a daily skincare regimen that consists of products with clean ingredients. And so that means that you want them free from like formaldehyde-donated ingredients, from phthalates, from artificial colors, artificial dyes. And here's a really weird one that many of us don't think about. You also want it to be vegan certified.
Why?
The reason why is that if it's not vegan certified, there's no way to guarantee that there isn't rendered animal byproducts in your products. Right? And so, there are some people that collect roadkill. but there's still standards in the roadkill meat collection for consumption, right? It's not going to be a few days old. It's going to be, so what happens where rendered animal byproducts come from are your roadkill, euthanized animals that die on farms, parts of animals that can't be sold, bone, gristle, fat. And it's all boiled down in vats, and somehow you would have to discard of that fat and that lard and that grease. But what if you can then reuse it? And then it's put into your personal care products as anything that needs to lather, anything that needs to feel gel-like, anything that needs to have a shine, right? But you could only imagine what that looks like, so we have to color it.
Right.
Then you can only imagine what that smells like, so then we have to add a fragrance. But then we need something or some things to keep the color and the fragrance from turning. And those things disrupt our endocrine system, our hormone production. It disrupts our metabolic process. It causes diseases, including cancer. Right? And so we can't let the beauty regimen become part of a problem for the other two sides. So we want a beauty regimen that has clean ingredients that nourish the skin. We definitely want to boost good bacteria in our gut with probiotics to help replenish and support your digestive tract and immune system. And then prebiotics are that food for probiotics. And so it helps them to multiply. And again, there's an all-out war. And so we want to do that crowding out. And you also want to maximize digestion. Many of us are eating a bit cleaner, having our clean green smoothies and so forth. We want to be able to absorb all of that with our products. The things your doctor tells you. Get enough sleep. But how do I do that when I really can't sleep? Journaling. Same things you would do with a toddler before it's time for them to go to bed. Wear them out, right? So
Sleep routines.
right? You'd have them do a dance party before. It's like, okay, you ready? You ready? Okay, you tired now? No, okay, dance it out, right? So maybe change your workout routine. Some people are energized after a workout. Some people are like, I work out and I take a shower and I'm ready to go to bed. Maybe it could be something more mild, like stretching, yoga, even Tai Chi, right? So just looking at your routines and what it takes. My close friend and I'm like, all right, yeah, okay, I'll talk to you tomorrow because I'm getting ready for bed. Yeah, we know we'll be up for another hour, but we're getting ready to get ready for bed. Like, we both get off the phone, but you could call us in 2 minutes. We're not sleeping, right? An hour later, you sleeping? No. I was only getting ready for bed. I'm like, now in the bed, phase 2 begins, right? Right? It's a process. And so my bedroom, when people see it, they're like, no wonder you sleep. There isn't anything else to do in there except sleep or get dressed. My iPhone and my iPad now sleeps 15 feet away from me. She's like, what in the witchcraft are you speaking of, woman? Right? They're in a different room. They're like, and I'm in a smaller condo, so literally they're charging in the kitchen, and that's to keep those electromagnetic waves away from me. Because that disrupts our body's natural. We're superhumans, like we're like superheroes, right? We're superheroes. So it's like, just think of if you were like a superhero and you could do one of those like shields around you. We have one, you just can't see it. And so all of these devices, they interrupt that, right? Or even put in your smart TV and other devices on a power strip so that you can turn it off when you're not watching it. So everything turns off because they're still working even when they're not on. They're still emitting those electromagnetic waves that interrupt our sleep, that interrupt our beauty rest. Right? And there's a reason why it's a beauty rest. Repair, recovery, regeneration, all those nutrients, all those vitamins we want for healthy skin, they happen during that time. And when we first wake up. So we want to wash away everything that was happening overnight as we were detoxing. We want to take that time between 7 and 11 to then replenish whatever nutrients we need for our skin. So if you take any skin supplements, if you do a super green smoothie, right? That's not the time for a bacon sausage sandwich from anywhere. You're like, what? No, 7 to 11 is the magical hours for your body when they're naturally in that detoxification and elimination process. Because all the work happened, right? At the same time that garbage trucks come. Right? Early in the morning. That's when it's happened. So your body overnight packed up all the trash bags, and then early in the morning, it's time to move it. So those are just some things that we can do to have the skin that we finally want. And we have to think of those three. So mind, body, and skin for a holistic approach to healthy skin. All right, any questions?
So when you're trying to create a healthy skin regimen, what are some of the things you would say a person should do as far as their eating habits? Like, what should they eat in the morning? What should they eat before they go to bed at night that could help with that process?
You always want to look at, when it comes to eating, it's really about nutrients, right? And it's looking at good, better, best, and you always want to select the best. Right. And so looking at just like the macronutrients of healthy fats. So if you can have some avocado in the morning, if you can incorporate coconut oil, nuts or seeds in the morning to have the healthy fats. If you can have, you're looking at your macronutrients of protein. So having very clean forms of protein. So even having salmon in the morning, salmon with egg whites, absolutely delicious. Salmon, egg whites, and some spinach. Or having a plant-based protein powder that you use for protein shake smoothies. Having an acai bowl, right? Which is why the bowls aren't just, it's not an icy bowl, right? We still have to pack it with some good fats, with some protein. So you have your seeds, your nuts, your shaved coconut, and your fruits, because that's what we're looking for. And then fiber. Fiber is that hardest working cleaning lady in our body. The hardest working cleaning lady. She scrubs out and cleans up everything, right? She's responsible for balancing our hormones, balancing our blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol. So focusing on maximizing just those macronutrients are going to do it. If we take, for instance, sweet potatoes versus a white potato, right? It's like, oh, wow, calories, carbs, okay, probably almost the same, but it's nutrients. One is nutrient dense and one is void of nutrients. So it's the good, get better, best. You know, it's not really like, oh, have this many calories or cut this out or don't do that. It's making those healthier substitutions.
Right. And
A lot
so,
more fiber in that.
like, so at night, in addition to taking all of your electronics out of the room, right?
Everybody's like,
Don't charge
For an alarm clock now.
do you know what? I'm sorry. Okay, let me back up. There's a disclaimer. I don't live by an alarm clock, and I have about this much sunlight in my bedroom.
Yeah, we do too. It's great.
So
Right.
I naturally roll over like Snow White to the chirping of the birds. I live in Miami, like on a lake. So it's like, okay, the ducks will either wake me up or the sunlight, or I try to get up and catch the manatee doing his morning lap. So I naturally roll out of bed, right? If you have a smart TV in your room, it needs to be unplugged. It needs to, like, not off because it's still running. So hopefully you'll move it out of the room, but even unplug it. Maybe you don't need your iPad in the room, right? So it's again, just making the conscious changes. So it may not be take everything and you're like, I'm in an insane asylum. No, it could be with just limiting the amount of smart devices that are in your room. Like, I have a sleep number bed, and I keep it on a power pack if you need to in case of an electrical surge. But now it's just like it's been off because that's something I'm conscious of. So again, it's not all or nothing. We can take gradual steps. She's like, whew, because she's like, I don't know if I can live with that. I don't know if that was gonna work. I had you at probiotics and skincare, but the phone, no. She was like, Mom is like, yes, a reason to take it out at night.
I don't have a question, but I like how you brought up the point about electronics, what it does to your body. And I'm like, it makes sense because when notifications will go off, like a ding over Facebook or Instagram, or when somebody's calling me, I'm like, especially now with the scam calls and everything, I'm just like, I don't even want my phone. And I get like a little annoyed and irritated. So I'm like, it makes perfect sense. Like, it disrupts the equilibrium in your body.
For a long time, I've been keeping it on silent, so it doesn't make any sounds ever. So if you call me, if I'm not looking at the phone, I won't know it until I go look, because I don't want that constant interruption and cortisol hit. When I'm ready to talk to somebody, I will look at, okay, let me call them back,
Right.
'Cause you can do that now.
Yeah.
Or even on the assistive device of have it just say who's calling. We're humans. To hear a voice is not a trigger unless it's on like maximum volume, but it's not as disruptive to our system as a light or a pop-up, right? You have to think, like, those things that happen, that's why casino slot machines are like that. Of where it's like, your pupils dilate, your heart starts to race. There's just a whole physiological reaction to it, and we don't think about it with our phones and devices, and that there's a light, and then there's an icon that comes, and then there's a red dot, right? And it's like, am I driving in traffic or what's going on to my body? We're always on the go. So just the gradual little changes.
I have a question about sleeping good, because I already put my all devices outside. I don't bring it in the room. Of course, my husband, he charged it inside the room, and then he use it as his alarm clock.
Okay.
But in my bedside table, I have my diffuser, with lavender, and that's my sleep aid. And I even have a sleep spray. But I've noticed, because my diffuser has a light, changing light, maybe it's distracting me from sleep.
At night, you can put it someplace else. You could put it a little lower so that maybe you don't see it as a nightlight. And they do have some, like I have one that's a ceramic cream and gold pumpkin. Like it's just a little pumpkin shell. I do have one with the change in lights. I'm like godmother to everyone, so I do like it for when it ends up being a nightlight for the little ones when they're there. But I do have one, and they do have some that don't have any light whatsoever. The other thing is, what is it that you need for sleep? For most women, it's what we need in life to make us happy, not having to think about everything. So one of your sleep aids could also be to have a notepad and a pen by the bedside to jot down so if you're sitting there like, okay, open your eyes and write it down.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
Open your eyes and write it down, which is why journaling is phenomenal. And I had a hard time with journaling because I hated writing. And I was like, what am I going to write about? And then when I start to close my eyes and be like, I know she did not say that to me and I forgot to say something back to her. I'm like, okay, that's what you'll write about. Like, whatever it is. Like, I thought I had to be like, dear diary, today was I thought I had to be like, like an author and like loquacious in my writing. It was like, no, like what was on your mind? Okay. So sometimes I have a journal, but it wasn't really journaling, like,
Just to empty.
right. It wasn't my memoirs. It was just sort of, a scratch pad, something to scratch. Something I used to also do is like, kind of go brain dead, like go numb and just zone out in something. And I used to play Tetris on my phone. The worst thing ever. You know why? Yes, because it speeds up and then I'm like, oh, no. And I'm in the bed like the blue light. And but even just changing the type of game. Because it was like, it speeds up and it gets faster and then it's more challenging. And it was like, no, I just needed to pop the button, pop the fruit, right? I needed like that till I'm like, oh, okay, wait, turn the phone off and go charge it where it needs to be charged. But just even those smaller changes, Sudoku was a good one. I'm not into word puzzles because, again, it was the write-in. It was just something to clear your mind, even doing a brain dump. Even having a quadrant sheet, what's important, what's not, right? Even for test anxiety, like I have a test. It'll be like, okay, if you're worrying about the test, then write out an affirmation. Just write it and get it off your brain. I am going to ace my test. And if I don't, it'll be all right. I'll do extra credit. Okay, right? Right? And then just go to sleep. If the test is what's on your mind or, oh my God, am I going to see him again today at the gym? He's so fine. Whatever. Right, whatever it is. So sometimes it's just that because, again, while this is racing, so is this. And then we wake up and suddenly there's a small mountain like, good morning. I've been waiting for you to wake up and see that I've appeared, right? Or, like I came and I was like, okay, sure, I have to be like on for the next day, and who has time for bags under my eyes? And it was just like, whatever I have to do, I'm 3 hours now behind ahead, right? I'm like 3 hours behind it. Whatever I have to do today, at this point, it's going to have to wait till tomorrow. And as soon as my body tells me to go to bed, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And then tomorrow, I'll just lazily sleep in to then catch up with my jet lag.
And I think we don't refresh enough. I think we pack too much, and I have been very guilty of that. But I stopped doing that. And when my body says it's time to shut down, I shut down because you don't really get much done past that point anyway. You just literally.
We vegged out for 2.5 hours yesterday.
We did that for 2.5
half hours.
yesterday.
Nothing. We were like, what are we doing? I don't even know.
I was sending the same text for like 20 minutes because my brain was, I was starting to shut down. So why not just completely shut down
and allow for that
and save it for the next day? And if it's something really important that you have to do, if you haven't done it and it's bedtime, likelihood you're not going to do it that day anyway. So just write it on that pad, right? And continue to process the next day. And I'm noticing that I go to sleep earlier and I wake up in the morning more refreshed earlier. So I always wake up early, but I'm not necessarily refreshed. Now I go to sleep earlier. When I wake up in the morning, I'm more refreshed because I did put the pen down, put the phone down, put the book down. Whatever it is that I'm worried about for the next day, just put it down. You can't change it, right? So I like that. I do.
So a couple key ingredients that we want in our skincare as well that we're looking for. We want things with, of course, another big catchword is hyaluronic acid. And do we know that our bodies naturally produce that?
Yes.
Okay, so that is something that our bodies naturally produce. So that shows up differently again based on our skin profile. And so it could even mean just more radiance in Asian skin because dullness and lack of radiance is one of the major skin concerns, and hyaluronic acid will help with that. It also helps with minimizing discoloration and blemishes. It also helps with making the skin more firm and plump and minimizing the signs of oxidative stress and aging. So having hyaluronic acid in your skincare products or even in a nutrition product is very beneficial. As one of my queen friends once said to me at a beauty counter, "Oh, honey, vitamin C naturally lightens, brightens, and tightens." With those 3 steps. I was like, lightens, brightens, tightens. Got it. Okay. So if we're concerned about blemishes and the messages that they leave behind, vitamin C is a great ingredient to naturally do that, as well as plant-based retinoids, which work really well on African American skin and Black skin because it basically kind of like gnaws away at the pooled melanin and shrinks it little by little by little and then fades it little by little by little without any brightening ingredients. So it's actually sort of like a little Pac-Man that gnaws away at it. So those are some really great ingredients as well to look for in your skincare regimen as we build that.
Petra, it is so nice having you here at Girl Talk. I want to thank you for all the information you've given us on how to be healthy from the inside out and how to make sure our skin looks good and how to get to that. But it wouldn't be Girl Talk if we didn't talk about the financial part of it.
So true.
Right? So what is the cost associated with being healthy?
The cost is really the value of it. And so what we talked about today is looking at your beauty regimen as just one part of your whole wellness.
Yes.
And so there isn't really a price that we could put on our health and wellness. And so what we have to look at is the investment of it. And just like when we're ready to make a purchase, a larger purchase, like even a home, or we're looking to maybe start traveling or doing those things, and we create our budget and we start to cut out other things or make exchanges, when we put the value of a clean skincare regimen up there with our health and wellness, we will find ways to do that. And one of my favorite ways is really being an affiliate of a brand that has an affiliate program that allows for ambassadors, that does compensate not only through discounts, but through actual income opportunities for building their brand awareness and using the brand. And that's why I love Arbonne International. It gives all of that. So you have this plant-forward brand through a B Corp that's really about people and planet flourishing.
That's right.
Paired with the opportunity not only to save, but you can also create significant income streams. So it's a win-win for everyone.
I agree. Because actually, when you look at the cost of putting together a skincare regimen for yourself and you look at the cost of eating healthier, initially it may seem like it costs a little bit more, but like you said, what is the value? What kind of value are you getting back from it? I agree with that 100%. And I wanted to know, like, for children. So we have a lot of parents who are looking at their children who are going into pre-adolescent or they are adolescents, and they're looking at ways that they can compensate for what's going on with their skin, and nutrition is a large part of that. So what would you tell a parent who is looking at their child who's going into that teenage years and their skin is starting to disrupt? It's not as smooth as it once was, and you're starting to see the acne and things like that. What are some tips you would give a parent?
The same tips that I just gave our group, right? Because what happens at adolescence are those shifts and those changes.
Right.
So not only are there hormone imbalances, there are also more stressors as an adolescent.
Yes.
Your academic workload has increased. Your social life is now like this tumultuous tornado. So I would say to parents, really guide your adolescent with dealing with stress, whether it's for tests, for assignments. They're also more competitive in their sports. Right. There's just higher stakes that start to happen. So when we look at those holistic factors of mind, body, and skin, how are they dealing with their stresses? And then nutrition, just do as much as you can at home, right? I live by that 80-20 rule. So I eat in my home 80% of the time, and so I have 80% full control. Right. And then the 20%, and for teenagers, that's going to be most of, the same percentage for them, maybe 25 while in school. But that's such a small fraction compared to the 80%.
That's right.
So it's really where parents do have the control of what they consume. And a lot of things are just learned, right? They're nurture. We have learned behaviors. So if everyone in the home is having a green tonic in the morning, it's just a part of our household.
That's right.
If we're eating clean, if we're baking our own cookies, if we make that a family activity, it's the same thing. If we're in habits of taking care of our skin, if we all have regimens, then that's also what your teenagers are going to fall into. Exactly. And studies have shown that youth that have rituals and routines in their home suffer less from anxiety because it's something you can count on. If I know when I get up, I'm going to grab my uniform, I'm going to eat my breakfast, every day I can count on that. When I come in, I'm going to do this and do that. We're going to have dinner every Sunday. Friday night is going to be family fun night out somewhere. So even a part of just having a personal care ritual and routine and regimen, that's something to help them to deal with anxiety and stress and even adolescent depression, which is a huge issue today, and even something that within the Arbonne community we work through supporting through our charitable foundation, which is called Flourish, which focuses on supporting nonprofits that deal with teenage depression.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you again. I think we've covered all age groups. And so that a parent, a mother, because we do talk about girl talk here, at every age we can be healthy and we can support a healthy lifestyle and not take it outside of our budget, because we do talk about finance here at Girl Talk.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Char.
Of course. And you promise to come back.
I do.
And visit with us again.
Soon.
Good. All right. Well, everyone, this has been an amazing Girl Talk adventure. We've learned about not just how to acquire healthy skin, but we've learned about how to eat the right things so that we can support what we say we want to have. I want to thank our guest Petra for being here today. She has been amazing. And I want to thank you for listening, and we'll see you again next week. If you like this interview, make sure you hit the subscribe button below.